Listening to like people who are gonna be like commenting on LMFAO tracks and stuff and being like, oh, I wish I was born in the wrong generation.
Yeah. Hey everybody, welcome back to the Jesse Nyberg Podcast. Today I'm here with DJ, producer, designer Trevor Tappy, or Freeman713. He's a good friend of mine. I've known him for a while. And how's it going?
It's going good, man. Just chilling.
Yeah, I was saying, like, it's nice to talk to someone. This is probably the first person I've had on where we would just be talking anyway, you know, actually know you. Most of the time I'm meeting the people for the first time, and it's sometimes an interesting experience.
Yeah. No, I'm happy to be on the show.
Yeah, and we've known each other for a while, so me and you, just a little background for people, me and you actually met in, like, at school, in, like, the design program, and then you were continuing to do that, and then also kind of moved a lot of your focus into producing and DJing and stuff. And what kind of stuff have you been up to lately with all that?
So I run a record label with some of my friends called Perfect Dark, and that's also kind of like some of our other friends from school. But yeah, we run this label together, and it's like we release music, and it's also like an event, like club night, like thing. But we've been doing that for like a few years now, since like sort of the end of our being in school time. And so I'm putting a lot of focus into like doing that, and that takes like a lot of like work from like every kind of angle, because it's like it's a lot of design stuff, it's obviously like a lot of music stuff, it's like a lot of just making assets for like releases or making like I don't know, it ends up being like a lot more work than you would think, I guess. I don't know. And we kind of like split it between us. Me and like Tanner is our other homie that I run it with. Me and him kind of like, well, me and him do all of the design stuff, so we kind of like split that between us. Yeah.
And you end up doing a lot more, I guess, like non-music stuff compared to what you would think, huh? Like doing it like business side of things and everything.
Yeah, there is like definitely a lot of that, especially too now since we're making merchandise and stuff now. So there's a lot of like, there's definitely a lot more like business aspects to handle about it. But it's fun, and it's fun to be able to like actually like release music on like in like a semi-professional kind of way, and like be able to like release other people's music too. Like we're about to release some music for Ricky, friend of the show, so that's kind of cool. Like, you know,
that's
just finished doing I just finished doing the design for like the album actually too, which ended up kind of taking me a long time, but just finished that like yesterday.
Yeah, we were talking about that a little bit like off air. It's nice that you have that design background, and you have our other friend Tanner, who is also a designer. That way you guys can kind of handle all the creative in-house, and like that's just another thing. It's on your plate and you have to do it, but then you don't have to like worry about, you know, finances for that. It's more just allocating your time rather than money.
Yeah, totally. And everybody kind of has their own thing that they're good at and can do. Like, it's really nice to be able, it's usually not a problem to be able to be like, oh, we have to do all this stuff, like you do this and you do this and I'll do this. It's usually it comes together pretty nicely. And obviously it's like really easy to work with Tanner because we're pretty much like on the same page as far as like music and design stuff goes together, you know? So it will like a lot of times we're going back and forth with like posters or like album arts or whatever. Like one of us will start it and then the other one will finish it or something.
Yeah, you guys definitely have like, there's like a good amount of crossover in all of your guys' just kind of style in terms of like how stuff looks, like the design, the art direction, and same with like the actual music. Like you guys seem to be like a good group, and that's what I was going to ask you too about so you've had a few different names for stuff since I've known you, and I was wondering what the Freeman713 like project and name is about.
Yeah, so the Freeman713 name is like, that's like my solo techno project.
Mm-hmm.
So I've been living in LA for like the past just like almost been like 6 months now.
Yeah.
And like so I kind of wanted to like just have my own project where I could do techno and like really focus on like getting involved with like the greater like techno scene out here, and kind of have like my own like name to like, you know, just like use and like
right.
Just because the music that I'm making is pretty similar to like my Smoke Jumper project, which is like me and my friend Rocky,
right,
who is like up north in like Bay Area, kind of like where I was living before, and we're still doing our thing, and like that's kind of like the main like output for Perfect Dark stuff still is like me and him doing Smoke Jumper stuff. But I just wanted to be able to have like, for the Smoke Jumper stuff, we try to be really like really professional with like the presentation, and like really like not putting things out in like an unofficial way, or like not like doing things like super
little B style, like just every day.
Yeah, we want, I think everything for Smoke Jumper we want to have like officially released on like all streaming and everything, and have like everything have like nice art and everything be like kind of cohesive. And I just wanted a way to be able to like to be able to kind of like put out just kind of like more like rough or like experimental or like stuff that maybe is like I would maybe not want to release like right away, or just stuff where I'm kind of like trying to experiment with like new sounds, or like kind of like find the new direction to go in,
right.
And just kind of like just like push like just sort of like push like my personal like boundaries of like what I'm trying to make. And it's like it's different too, you know, because you like meet different people, and you go to all these different shows, and there's like different sounds and styles and stuff that I want to do, and I want to like just have like an easy way to make my own little persona that I can like move around with, but that is still also like cohesive with the Perfect Dark stuff.
Yeah, it seems,
because I'm still making music for all the other like stuff too, but it's just like I want this to be my main focus because it's in line with where I'm at like personally.
Okay, so it seems like the change in names isn't necessarily like a replacement for your other avenues. It's more or less like these different projects or like personas incorporate different styles of music like that you've been through.
Yeah, definitely. It's like, there have been names that I've used before that I don't use anymore. Like when I met you and when I met everybody else, I was like Hound Beats, and that was like my name for when I was in that was like when I was in late in high school to like early in college, and that was like the first project where I was like actually like I think like good, you know, where people were actually like listening to my music, and it was like actually like decent, and like I had like worked enough to get stuff to where it was actually like sounding pretty good to where other people actually like, wanted to listen and stuff. But I ended up like not sticking with that name because I didn't like that it had like beats in it, like because I feel like everybody that I was meeting was just like assuming that I was just like the beats guy, you know, and I didn't want to be like
and stuff.
Yeah, because I think early on I thought that I wanted to be like a producer, like
right
in the traditional sense of like producing, like engineering like other people's stuff. But I think I found out like that I don't really like to work like that. Like I don't really like collaborating with people on music stuff, honestly. Like, well, aside from like Rocky and Tanner and like people that I'm like that I like really click with and can like really like sit down and like work on something with. But for the most part, it's like not that easy for me to like collaborate like musically
with just whoever.
It's weird. It has to be the right person or the right like situation, or it kind of just doesn't work for me.
It's
and I hate engineering for other people, like when it's on some other stuff. Like I thought that was what I would want to do originally, and originally I was even going to go to school for that. but I'm glad I didn't because I hate engineering.
Doing
I hate
that,
like making somebody else's idea.
doing engineering and like producing for like, you know, like in that sense, like for a beat, for like, let's say like rap or even like pop or whatever, I kind of like compare it a lot more to if you're doing design and you have like a shitty client. It's like, it's not fun and you don't really want to be doing it, but you're kind of just doing it for whatever the other reason is, like the money or the credit or like whatever.
Yeah, exactly.
And
and then
was it hard to kind of, when you made that diversion though, I feel like that was definitely a big step because it kind of retired like you in that scene and you focus more on like techno and house and stuff. But was it ever kind of like, were you nervous a little bit since you already built up kind of like a somewhat name for yourself in that world?
No, just because it's like people still know who like I am, I think, you know, just as a person. And like I don't really like, if I'm wanting to do a different thing, then I'm not gonna like tie myself to one thing, you know.
Yeah,
I think I look like,
that's good.
I don't know, I feel like there's like people make it like a big deal like what your like handle is or how you're presenting yourself in this kind of like social media kind of way. But I look at like a lot of like in techno especially and like electronic music especially, a lot of people who are like older, like really like highly respected like old heads, you know, like legendary techno dudes or like like they'll have like, you'll look at their like discographies and they'll have had like a whole bunch of different like side projects and all these different like aliases where they've released music under. And I think like ultimately like you still know that it's like one person and maybe there's like one project that they like that popped off the hardest and that's kind of what they're most well known for,
right? But
it's still like, you know, you can still do all these other things too. I don't know, I don't like tying myself to like one thing. I think in a lot of like aspects of my life, you know. So
yeah, I think that I have that issue too sometimes, not really with like I like my identity or being tied to like a name, but I don't like getting tied to like a look or like a style of something, because then I feel like if I do something else, then people think like, well, what's this? I thought you do this other thing, but I want to do whatever I want, and that's kind of like the nice thing is you can.
Yeah, no, that's like such a weird thing about like, especially like the times today's like people like, I don't want to have people be like, oh, you're this guy, you know, but like also you kind of like need that for like
notoriety or whatever.
Yeah, which sucks, but like I don't know, it's just like it sucks to have to be like, oh, like I'm like developing my like brand identity like as a fucking like as an artist or like as a person, you know, because it's like I don't want to do that. I just want to like make stuff and have people like look at it. But yeah, in like a sense of like you need to, or people aren't going to pay attention if you don't make it like easily digestible for them, you know?
Yeah, when people will say like that's not on brand, and it's like I'm not a fucking brand. I'm just a human being.
Yeah, that's like the last thing that I want to be, is like something that is like encapsulated where you can be like, oh, this is like this and this, and that's what it is, and it fits over here, and like we can just put it away. Which I think is like, that's such a problem for like, that's always like the like the in between like I don't know, like artists and fans or like consumers or and like producers or like, you know, just like how people on the internet like react to like new music or new art or whatever. It's always like, if you read comments for anything, so it's always like, oh, this is like this, or this sounds like this, and like people just like I don't know, people just need that to like something about how people's brains work or something. They need to just be able to categorize everything a certain way. It's
like genres, like we have so many genres now in music or in art that there's like so many that the purpose of a genre almost like gets like voided, because it's just so specific that like any new music could be like its own genre, and it'll be like they'll just stack them on. It's like melodic, hyper, techno, pop, like something, step, core or whatever. It's just so long.
Yeah, and I think like I don't know, I think it's always been that way too, where like I think most of the time when people make like good art, they're not like I don't think they're trying to be like, oh, like I'm gonna make like minimal techno and it's gonna be the best like minimal techno album or whatever, you know, whatever your thing is. Right. But like I think the best stuff comes from people just making like what they make and then like putting it out there, and then, you know, the culture kind of decides what it is like after. Yeah,
that's a good point. What would you, I guess then, if you were to kind of talk about yourself, like how would you describe the stuff that you're doing currently in your solo things?
Like musically?
Yeah, musically.
Yeah, I don't know, except I'm still like, I'm definitely for the most part focusing on like really trying to make like techno, because like I'm kind of like at a point where I'm getting a little bit older and I'm kind of like, okay, I don't really want to have like a real job or like a real career, so I need to like sort of make my art like something that's like that I can really stand on, you know? So I need to like have like definitely like a direction to like go in. Yeah. And like the direction that I'm like trying to commit to right now is like, you know, what I'm listening to probably the most, which is like, you know, harder, faster, like techno, like I guess maybe like minimal techno, but I don't even know. I don't even know how much I identify with like that term. Right. But like a lot of like a lot of what I'm doing right now is like hardware based, kind of like super jammy, kind of like trying to get stuff out as fast as possible. Sure. And trying to make stuff be really dynamic, but not like too over produced, you know, or like too like, I don't know. I find that like, I don't know, even when I make something, I still end up like obsessing over it and like tweaking stuff on it. So I can't really say that like I'm just like, oh, I'm just trying to do everything like off the bat. But I think what's changed about how I'm working now than how I was working before is I'm definitely like, my process is like a lot more getting ideas out, getting sketches out really quick and making like a lot of sketches, and then taking those sketches and like kind of like remixing them myself and like reiterating the sketches. So like a lot of times now, which is different from how I've worked before, is I'll have a song where like there's 5 different versions of that song, but then like the one that comes out is just like the one where I'm like really happy with everything. But then you could go back and actually listen to the different like versions of the song and hear it kind of like developing more and more, which is cool too, because then I have like a bigger backlog of like songs to like be able to play when I'm DJing, or like these little bits and pieces to like play with.
Yeah, and you can pull from them like into other like songs or whatever later down the road, since they weren't used in this other version of something.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, that's cool. I feel like you're like kind of how you're describing, for as much as I know about like the different avenues and like worlds of all that electronic music, is you seem to be focusing a lot more on like stripping things back and like bringing it to more like a pure like techno form, as before you were doing a lot more different stuff with like house and then like the beat stuff, and then like you're kind of, this is like your final form, I guess, for lack of a better term.
Yeah, it's like the way that I think I didn't know it was the way that I wanted to work before, but I think like I did, but I just didn't know that like that's exactly how, like, because I don't know, even like the whole time I've like been into making music, it's always been like sort of a mystery, like especially with like techno or electronic music, of like how somebody made this. Like that's kind of like the fun of it too. You like hear something that you really like and you're like, whoa, like that's crazy, like how did they make that sound, or like how did they like make this remix? And then you like go and try to like do something similar yourself, or like try to like, I don't know, I'll always try to like listen to like songs I like and I'm like, oh, that groove is like crazy, like let me try to make like something similar. And then I'll make something and it won't be the same, but I'll have learned something from trying to have recreated it, you know, like because I've, and it's the same with design too, I think, like
I do that often. Like I'll see something and I kind of like, I almost try to think like, how would this look is like the source file if I had it, and like break it down by like the layers or however it is, like if it's a video, like a different way. But I'll do that, and then and it's like, it's not like I'm just gonna copy it and put it out and that's like, this is mine, but I do that way I have that, and then I can look at it, and usually like no human can create a perfect copy of something really else. So like even in the attempt to copy something verbatim, it comes out with like the filter that you put on it, you know?
Yeah.
And that's what's nice.
I've always really liked the idea of like remixing stuff, you know? Like, because in music, like electronic music especially, like remixing stuff is like really big. But I feel like in design, even more than like electronic music, I'm really drawn to like collaging stuff, or like taking bits and pieces from other stuff and like putting them together to make like a new thing.
Yeah,
that's always kind of been like my favorite kind of like design stuff.
They do that. I noticed too with electronic music. Like I've talked about this with some of our other friends. They do a lot of the remixes on like the logos and shit. Like it'll just be like Tide or something, or like some famous logo, and it'll be like a DJ name. Yeah, like all the 90s shit.
Yeah, I love that stuff. That stuff's like super I mean, I think you see that influence a lot now from like the 90s like rave like aesthetic is like super huge like in design and techno. Yeah, it's kind of funny because I think there's a really big crossover with design and techno in that sort of like. Did you interview Dreadlabs?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think the style stuff that he does is so like intertwined with like techno music that it's like, I don't know, it's really funny. Like they're like kind of co-evolving.
Yeah, there's definitely parallels. Like there's also like if you want to throw another thing into like this triangle, it would be is like there's the music that kind of repeats itself and like the different inspirations, and that kind of plays off the design, and then also like in terms of like fashion or like what people look like, you know, like pretty much everything right now is like 90s and like Y2K, like music, design, and fashion, and they're all so like, you know, probably in 20 years we'll be doing like shit that's from 2015 or whatever, or 2012 or something.
Yeah, that shit's so funny. I guess like that's always kind of been the thing. It's like 20-year cycle or something, right? Like,
yeah, it's weird because we're finally, it makes you feel old because we're finally to the age where something can be like repeated for the first time.
Yeah, and when you grow like farther away from like a time, I think the weird little like quirks and like things that make it like iconic become more apparent, you know? I think it's like more and more like I'm seeing like all these like weird little like funny things about like the 2010s or whatever that were like a thing, you know? I don't know, it's gonna be funny when like fools in like 2030 are wearing like bull snapbacks,
and, like the swag shit,
and putting like 10 Instagram filters on stuff, you know?
It like just like snake bites and like funny like little quotes, like it's so weird to see. I've seen that stuff on like I don't use Tumblr but I see like the posts like that are like from that or like reminiscent of that on Twitter or something, and there'll be people saying things like, oh, like I would have killed to be like a 2012 high schooler, and it's like, what is that even? That was not even that long ago, you know?
Listening to like people were gonna be like commenting on LMFAO tracks and stuff and being like, oh, I wish I was born in the wrong generation.
Yeah, I think that just is a thing with stuff that passes. It's hard. You said the iconic things stand out, but not only that, it gets harder and harder to remember all the shitty things. Like people totally. That are like, I wanted to live in the 70s and like, or the 60s, and they don't even think about like the Vietnam War and all this like bad shit that was also happening, you know?
Yeah.
Which is funny.
I want to live in the future.
Yeah, it'd be cool. I think that's the thing with design and different styles, like the future. Everyone always tries to make stuff look like what the future is, and then we're already in the future of the old time people saying the future, and everything doesn't look like Chrome or whatever, except for like people's Photoshop files. That's about it.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's weird. Like, it's weird to see, like, you ever watch like Twilight Zone or anything like that, and then it'll be like 2008, and they're like flying cars and shit.
Yeah, everyone's like wearing like tinfoil clothes and stuff.
Yeah, I guess we have that kinda. We have like the tinfoil hat people, but
there's some stuff like I feel like Apple Watches are very like
that's true.
That's like really like the little communication devices, or like smartphones especially too, are like super big. Like that's like some crazy like future technology.
Yeah, it's very like Star Trek kind of style like stuff.
There's a lot of I think even like video conferencing too. Like I feel like I remember like watching TV and stuff when I was like really little, and you would see like it's like the CIA like command and control room or whatever, and they would have like the video conference screen.
Yeah.
And I feel like they probably had something like that at the time, but it was definitely like there's definitely like a movie version of that was like not how it was in real life. And I feel like now it's kind of like that, especially with Zoom and everything, and how much like video chatting and stuff has advanced in the last like 10 years or so.
Instead of like CIA top secret like conferences, now it's just people like talking about like what they ate for breakfast and like coffee and just like office like banter, and it's like very not like high tech at all. Yeah, that's funny. That stuff's weird. One thing though I wanted to ask you to get a little back to something is I wanted to know kind of what first inspired you to get into like, I guess maybe not music in general, but like DJing and like making techno and stuff, because like we were saying before, we met in like this design program, and you had already, like I already knew you made music, but I was wondering what kind of inspired you to even want to do that in the first place.
Yeah, I don't know. I think I just like I started DJing in high school, and I think that like a big part of it was that I just wanted to like go to parties and like do like you know, like do like cool like my life is a movie stuff, you know, like like I really like love the idea. Like I had never even been to like a real like rave or anything when I like before I started DJing, but I just love like the idea of like a crazy like underground rave, you know. I always thought that was like really cool, like in movies or whatever. Like that was I was always like, oh, like, that's like so sick. Yeah. Like like we talked about that like scene from like Triple X or whatever, right? Where they're like in the crazy like European club. Yeah, with the Tesla like, coils like and shit. yeah, like from like early 2000s movies or whatever. Where I was like, oh, like that's like so sick. Like I want to do like that. And then I think like I started like, because I was into like dubstep and like early electronic music for me, and I thought it was really cool. And then I like, you know, tried to like DJ stuff and like tried to like mix songs together, and it just like really clicked for me, and I like really enjoyed it. And then I was like, okay, like I want to take this and like try to like do it like in person somewhere. So I started like going to like parties and stuff, like high school parties, and like just bringing speakers and like my little DJ mixer and like playing songs and stuff. And it was just like everybody just loved it, and like I had hella fun time doing it. And like really early on, that's how me and Rocky like kind of like connected on it. Just like I think like it was literally, I think one of the first times I even came to like a party and like brought my stuff. I think me and Rocky kind of like clicked together on that. We're just like, oh, let's do this. And it's kind of funny too, because I think Tanner has almost the exact same story, but like from just where he was at, like a different part of California, you know. Yeah, we were both like,
you guys are all doing the same little life in just other areas of the state.
Yeah, no, it's funny because like it's like literally almost the exact same like story. Like
so you liked it right away though? You like after you did those first couple like live events, you were like, holy shit, this is something I actually like want to pursue further.
Yeah, definitely. And yeah, I think I was always like looking for like, what do I want to do, or like what, like, you know. But like that was like definitely one of the first things where I was like, okay, like this is sick, like I really love doing this, and I gotta find a way to like keep doing this, you know.
It's funny to hear some of the stories you've told me, and just like going to different, I've been to some raves and stuff with you, from like something as simple as like some shit at like the school or whatever, and then something as far as like some underground shit. Like it's just funny to imagine you telling me how you guys would DJ like some corporate event at like Google or something, and then just contrast that with like that rave we went to that was like under that abandoned apartment or whatever. It's such a different world, but you're still doing the same thing, just different music.
Yeah, exactly. And like, I don't know, DJing is like, I haven't like been DJing very much, obviously because of COVID. I think like everybody kind of like took a break from DJing, or at least like it's different doing like the live streams and stuff for sure than like if you're really like in a room with people. Yeah,
I'm sure that's kind of like, I don't know. I would think that it'd be like kind of anticlimactic, you know, like you do something like a sick transition or something, and it's like, well, they probably liked it, but I wouldn't know.
Yeah, definitely. And like, it's so cool because like I think most of the times we did those were like there would be like a few people at the house or whatever, so you can still vibe with people. But it's definitely really like I can't really like DJ if I'm like alone. Like it doesn't really click for me. Like I need to like have at least somebody else in the room to like bounce off of, you know?
It's the same way I feel like I've heard comedians talk about how like they want to do the digital stuff, and it's like it's just dumb because there's no one's laughing, and it's just
that seems really weird, especially because that too is so based on like reactions, you know?
Yeah, I think that and like comedy stuff and DJing stuff is kind of has a lot of parallels there, where like you're doing the art, but the crowd is just as involved in the art compared to like other things. If you're just watching a guy paint or something, you're not part of it, you know? The crowd's definitely part of it when it comes to music.
Yeah, I think so much of DJing is being able to like read the room, which I know they say in comedy like a lot too. Yeah, but like that's so sure. like you can be like the best like technical DJ and you can mix like 4 tracks together and like you can be like crazy, but like if you're at a party and like people are like not liking the music and not dancing, then you're not a good DJ, you know? You're not like doing a good job.
Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah,
you gotta know like when to like play what. Like it's funny too because like I feel like at our shows too, like you know, we'll play what we play, but then like, you know, you still gotta like know the room, and like I think we'll like not be taking things so seriously to where we can't like just play like
a song that's
like total that's like that maybe doesn't seem like it would fit in, but like if you know people are gonna, if there's one song that like this is like a certain group of people that I know like love this song, or like I know like this song is gonna like make these people stoked, and you can work it in like a fluid way, then like you should do it, you know?
Yeah, you gotta throw the crowd in a bone every once in a while to keep them on board with what you're doing. I kind of find that what you were saying about like, you know, some guy being up there, like, oh, maybe someone like you would see like, oh, he mixed like those 4 tracks perfectly, but like if the crowd isn't vibing with it, it kind of defeats the purpose of DJing. And it's the same way I feel about, like, I love hip hop and stuff, but some of the people that are just like way too lyrical, that it's kind of just like not even a good song anymore. That's just them like flexing that they know like big words, you know?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, like you gotta like your main, like for DJing especially, your main job is to like entertain people, you know? So like, and that's like, there's such a difference too in DJing and like in producing, you know? Like, I love producing too, because I can like, it's a super like solitary like experience, you know, like where you're like really in your own zone and you can just kind of get lost in your own little zone for like hours, you know, and just kind of like go wherever you want, which is fun. And then like eventually maybe you have something that's like a cool product that you can share with people, but like getting there was like a whole other like journey that you did by yourself.
It's really the opposite of like the vibe of like DJing and making music. Like I've talked to some of my, like you and some of our other friends, and making the music looks a lot more like designing or like art, because you're kind of just like in this like kind of tunnel vision like bubble of like your screen or your equipment. And DJing, it's like everything is going out like into the world instantly. It's almost like It's like live streaming if you were doing art or whatever. But did the how long after did you start making music after you started DJing? Because it sounds like that came after, right?
Yeah, I think I was like, I think it kind of all came at once, honestly, because like I can't remember specifically first if I got like a DJ controller or if I got a synthesizer first. Mm-hmm. I definitely bought a synthesizer super early on, like even before I had like any like music software, and just because I played around with one in the store, and I was just like, I just like love playing with all the weird like different like sounds and stuff.
Yeah.
And it definitely kind of all happened around the same time. I think like when I heard like dubstep or like electronic music early on, I was just like super like how do they make that? Like what is that? You know?
Yeah.
Like, what like wanting to know like what like a synthesizer is or like how. Yeah, just like how they make it was such a mystery to me at the time, and it was cool to like kind of go and like unravel that.
Yeah, I feel like with like stuff like that, like dubstep and like the stuff I heard in high school, like that, and like like Skrillex, and then you have like the early on like really famous shit like Deadmau5 or like Tiesto or whatever. I feel like that stuff everyone kind of hears first, and it's kind of like the entry. And then the deeper you go is like a little bit closer to like some of the stuff I would equate that you like and what you do. Like you have to kind of start somewhere there, and then you get further and further. It's like anything, like you start to crave the obscurity.
Yeah, definitely. And like I'm not like picky when it comes to like what I'm like into. Like if you went through my Spotify, like it's like all over the place, you know. Mm-hmm. But like there's definitely like a sound that I know that I like that I'm trying to like specifically like capture with the Freeman project, you know? Yeah.
When another thing that I wanted to ask you that I never really got to talk to you about, even though I knew you were there and stuff, but how was it being like in Europe and in Germany and stuff, and did it influence like you a lot in like what you wanted to do after you came back from there?
Yeah, I mean, I think I still like wanted to do the same stuff before, but I think more than anything, it was just cool to see like how the culture around like dance music was different there, because it is really different there. Like it's like it's a lot more mainstream, I guess, like in terms of like people going to like, you know, big techno parties or like going out all night to like these like crazy like underground raves. It's like much more like people who aren't like specifically like into techno music and stuff, I think will end up just like going to that kind of stuff just because it's like the thing to do. Where like here I feel like you kind of have to be into it first, and then you find the events that are like what you want to go to. You know, but like there it's just kind of like, it's kind of like an institution, like even especially in Berlin, like where there's so many like just crazy clubs and like all this stuff. And I think I had like an idea of what that was like first, but then to go and experience it firsthand was like definitely super cool. Yeah. Like they just have like, I think such a big difference between like the culture there and here is like the culture of like clubbing and like nightclubs and like partying here is very like, it has a lot to do with how our rules for like alcohol are, like how bars and clubs all close at like 2 a.m. Yeah. And there's like cool like underground stuff like in LA especially, you know, there's all kinds of like stuff that goes on all night, which is not like common, like not in big cities, you know. So that's cool that that's an option here, and that's kind of like similar to how it is there. But even still, it's very like, it's just like a much more like relaxed vibe there of like, oh yeah, I'm gonna go out and just stay out all night, and it's just like easy and like chill. And here I feel like if you go to like something like that, it's like a mission, you know. You're like, oh, like we're gonna go like go to this crazy rave. But like there it's just like, because if you go to like an underground thing or like a warehouse rave or something downtown, it's probably like semi like legal, you know, where they're like they're all like sus about you getting in, and it's like a weird thing, and you have to like pay a bunch of money, and like I don't know. But there it's just like way more, I don't know, there's just like more like infrastructure for it, and it's just like, I think it's just more like generally accepted in the culture.
Yeah, like a lot of the venues or like places to go out there are already catered to that, as like how we just have like normal clubs or normal bars. Like they're already set up for that style of music, and like
and they just like go for like 24 hours, and it's not like a crazy thing that just happens all the time, you know? But like
that's cool. And isn't it like the Origins over there too, in like Berlin and stuff? A lot of that stuff is kind of like starting out over there.
Kind of. I think like if you actually look at like dance music history, I think a lot of it comes more from like America, actually, like originally, like talking about the actual music.
Right.
But I think like, you know, this is like a whole other like conversation, but if you get into like the history of it, you can see that like it start like a lot of that music was like disco originally, or like soul music, or like, you know, like music that was like popular in like Motown kind of music that went over to Europe and got like more popular there, because like, you know, for whatever like cultural reasons, like it just clicked more with like their vibe for some reason. So like I mean that's like before even too, like with like the Beatles and stuff, and like all these like
that's a
bands
good point.
coming over, like all of that music is like inspired by like American like rock music, you know, and like soul music
and like
stuff.
Blues and shit.
And like techno and electronic music is kind of the same way, where like really the original like first wave people were like kind of like people in Detroit and Chicago who were like, you know, making this stuff, and it had its own little like thing that was way more of like an underground thing in America. And then it got really popular in Europe, but then like it was just way more marketable to like a greater like audience, I think, like in Europe. So that's why it blew up so much more over there. But then, you know, eventually that kind of like, it's kind of like a cycle. You know? So
it's crazy, like looking at the history of a lot of different music, like so many black artists like kind of invented like everything that all like branched out and like either got stolen or inspired or whatever. And the same way, like now that you mention that, it makes sense, because when I was living in West Hollywood, they have a lot of history of that stuff there with like the dance music and the gay scene and like all the house and all that stuff. And
for sure.
When it's cool you said that when they took it over there, they picked it up. It was kind of like how I like the punk music and shit that was here, like when they took it to the UK, like they just like ran with that shit, you know, like it completely blew up huge.
Yeah, totally. Exactly.
Yeah, that's cool though. I mean, it seems like going like to those different places, like when you're into techno and like DJing, it gives you like a lot more perspective on just like different way cultures do things and stuff.
Yeah, it was cool, and it was definitely super cool to like be there with like the crew too, like be there with like Rocky and like Tanner in Berlin, and like just like really checking out like the culture, you know, was like I think pretty inspiring for all of us. So it's definitely like a cool move.
I know like we were all friends in college and stuff, like we've been mentioning these people like Rocky and Tanner. It's like I know people probably don't know like off the top who that is, but they're all in your kind of collective label we were talking about, Perfect Dark. And I know we were all
check out Perfect Dark.
Perfect Dark 909. And
on Instagram,
we were all friends and stuff, so I obviously knew we were all together. But how did you guys kind of form that, like musically though, and like on the business side? Because I always never really knew the origins of like the actual grouping or collective, whatever you want to call it.
So me and Rocky have been like we've been like collaborating on stuff from like super early on. Like we kind of taught each other like how to like make music, and kind of like that's how we kind of like just learned from each other, like trying to both like make music like in high school and stuff. And that's always what I think for me too, is like it's always been really important for me to have like other people around me who are like doing something similar that I can like sort of like push off of, or like not like compete with, but you know, like to have some like somebody who's just like doing like contemporaries, you know, who you can like,
and they keep it real with you.
They did that, like that was sick, like oh no, I gotta like do something crazy too, you know. And I think that's like, I think for any art that's like important, you know, to like have other people like around you that you can like work off of. But yeah, so me and Rocky had like just done that for like a long time, just me and him. And then when I went to school in Chico, I was like always like looking for people who were also making music too, and like trying to get involved with like any other kind of scenes where people are like doing music and stuff. And I think early on I was like more involved with like hip hop stuff, because that's just what I found first, and there wasn't like a lot of like electronic music stuff. But I think me and Tanner met like, I think like his freshman year and my sophomore year, I think. But we clicked pretty like fast, just over like, I think we met because like one of us was wearing like a We Did It shirt or something, which is like a like a label from
the little
LA,
tombstone thing.
And like we're like, oh, like that's like a sick label. And then we were both just like, oh yeah, like I make music. And then I think we eventually just like linked up and like checked out each other's music, and it was like, oh cool, like this is like similar. So I think from then on, like me and Tanner were like vibing on the same frequency, you know. But we were like in school for a long time. We didn't start Perfect Dark until we actually all lived together,
right?
You know, so like it wasn't until like we all had that big house together that like I was like, oh, like we should do like an event, you know, like we should actually have like a thing. And then like just thought of like the Perfect Dark name. I don't know, just like sounded cool. And there was like, I think there was some other ideas too, but like we ended up going with the Perfect Dark one. And then it was just like, that was just the name of like our show. And then we just like started doing shows like in the basement, like literally. And then just taking it out from there, you know? That's
I guess that's what I assumed was the story too, but I always wondered if there was any like actual, just like, I guess it sounds like once we were all living together, it was when you were like, all right, we're already here anyway, so let's like make this an official like name for it or whatever.
Yeah, well, I think me and Tanner were always like wanting to like DJ parties as much as possible, but the thing is like your options for DJing parties are like, you know, usually just like frat parties where they kind of like want you to play like certain stuff, and maybe you can get away with playing some
Wonderwall,
like EDM
like
or
trap
techno,
remixes.
But like I think we wanted to have a thing where it was like our thing, and like you come to our thing and like it's what we're playing, you know. And I think it ended up being like a really smart call to like put us all under this like one like little umbrella. And I think too, I was thinking that too, because it was like getting near the end of school, and I was like, okay, well, we're all gonna like probably go do different stuff, where none of us are probably gonna like stay in Chico, right? You know. And so like we gotta have something to like some kind of like network to like connect under still. And that was kind of like the idea for the Perfect Dark thing. And yeah, I think it was a really good decision, because we're still doing it. And and it worked. I mean, that was my like, you guys introduced me to a lot of that music, but I would say that was my main like introduction to like how like a fun version of like a rave or like a dance thing, because I've always had only been to the ones you mentioned, like the shitty frat ones, and I was like, and now when we were doing those in like the basement and stuff, I was like, damn, this shit's cool. And then that's when I got more into like the graphics of it too and things, and like there was just a lot of, it was inspiring, even though I wasn't gonna go and make music off of it, obviously, but I took from it in my own way. And you're right in the way that it still does connect us. Like we're able to, like, it's like an excuse to hang out and also do something fun, even though we live in, we don't all live in LA, you know? Yeah, and I definitely like, that was definitely sort of like planned, like you know, I was like, oh, like this will be like just like a cool, like we just like a network, you know, just to keep everything like together and like keep everybody like on the same page. And it, like, yeah, especially for music stuff, like I was saying earlier, like I really like, it's important to me to have like other people around me who are like doing similar stuff, and like other people to like push off of. So it's like really nice to have that.
Yeah. And like what you were saying about that too, like something I wanted to add to that is that it's also very important that those people, they're not just like they tell you how it is, you know, like they don't just yes man you or whatever. Like if something is bad, they're like, it's bad, you know, or whatever. So you're not just totally. Because a lot of people, once I've seen this happen, they get like too popular that people are scared to like offend them or like tell them straight up. They'll just be like, oh, it's great.
Yeah, totally.
Great. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, no, that's so true. Yeah, and I definitely feel comfortable, like, if I'm working with Rocky or Tanner, to be like, yeah, like, this is bad, like, let's like do something else, you know? And then it's like, but like, yeah, it's like, you gotta have that, like, that's like,
yeah, that's like the issue.
And when someone else can tell you that too, you're like, okay, like, yeah, like,
yeah, like, I think everyone needs to have like a lot stronger like network like that, or a filter in their own mind, because I find myself sometimes with the internet, it's like everything that you do, like, you just want to put it on the internet, you know, that's like your first instinct. And then half the time, if I sit with something for a while, I'm like, that's like kind of like a bad thing, like maybe I shouldn't put that on the internet. Like I was just needing something like you get into this mindset where you're like, you need like content, you know, rather than
dude, it's so true,
rather than good design, good art, good music. Like I think that's why, like, when you mention with the smoke jumper stuff, it's a good idea that you're actually like, we're only going to do it if it's like a launch, you know, like it's an actual activation of like this thing, rather than like, hey, here's a song like on my story, link in my bio, that's it, you know?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And like, yeah, just like have everything be like, you know, there's plenty of stuff, like there's so much, like so many hours of like 99% finished tracks and like unreleased music, but it's just like, we're like, it's not like perfect, you know?
Yeah, and there's like a fine balance between that, and then some people get so in their head, it's like, yeah, I'm working on this thing and it's been like 10 years, you know, or 5 years or whatever.
Yeah, that's what's nice too about, like, especially with working with Rocky too, is it's really nice to be able to have another person to be like, oh, like, it's done, you know, like, let's just like, it's good to go.
Yeah.
Which is definitely something that I'm kind of like trying to work on balancing with the Freeman project too, is because I'm like, yeah, it's like a little bit like difficult to be able to tell yourself like, oh, it's good, like, stop working on it, like, you can just drop it, you know?
Yeah.
But like, yeah,
it's good.
So like, yeah.
I spoke with when I spoke with that guy Timmy, he was mentioning something like along those lines where, you know, you could spend 10 years on this thing, but if it could be like the next Mona Lisa or whatever, but if no one knows who you are because you weren't doing things along the way or like getting your name out there in that path, it doesn't matter how good this thing is, like, no one's going to discover it. That's half the battle. It doesn't, like, it can be the best thing ever. You have to know how to, you have to have people wanting the best thing ever, you know?
Very true. So true.
Yeah. I wanted to...
Yeah, that's one of those things that's really frustrating as like an artist too.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it happens in all, like in all art or like fields too, or like creative industries, whatever you want to call it.
Yeah.
Yeah. One of the last things that I wanted to kind of ask you to recommend, like, do you have anything that you can recommend to the people listening, like in terms of music that would be like good to listen to while working, or anything like that you've been discovering lately that you can put me onto and the audience, and I can drop it in the description?
Yeah, you should definitely check out like Perfect Dark Bandcamp. That's where we got all our tracks are on there. It's all nice. You could buy tracks, you could buy merch. It's all on there. But then we also do, every month we do like everybody in our crew, so that's like me, Tanner, Miguel, Rocky, and Connor, all collaborate on like a playlist on Spotify,
the selects.
And and so we just like, every month we try to put like 10 new songs in this playlist and just like refresh it every month of just like, you know, what we're listening to, but like more specifically like what we're listening to that like is maybe stuff that we would play in like Perfect Dark sets.
Oh, okay.
So it's got a nice mix of like all of our different kind of tastes, you know, so like you can like, there's like a bunch of different vibes you can go through. But yeah, I would say that people should check that out. That's sort of like what are we listening to playlist, you know?
Yeah, that's good. So, yeah, I'll link if you're watching or if you're listening to the audio or the video, I'll link the stuff below. So we'll have all your stuff, which your Perfect Dark and the Freeman stuff, as well as the playlist, the selects. I've actually listened to that a few times when I'm trying to discover stuff, and it's really good. And that's pretty much it, but I appreciate you coming on. And if you guys want to hear a little bit more, we're going to do a Q&A with Trevor on the Patreon. But anything else you want to plug or shout out?
Go buy Perfect Dark tote bags. Check out the Bandcamp, Perfect Dark 909. Check out my music, Freeman713 on Soundcloud. That's it. Yeah.
Cool. Hell yeah. Well, it was good talking to you, man, and I'm sure I'll talk to you tomorrow too.
Sure, man. Of course.
All right, man. Peace out.
See you, bro.